shock. I was like, oh wow, I couldn't believe, because no one had done that before, had been so abrasive, and there was all this. The parents were all shocked. I remember Tipper Gore all over the news.
She had started that really PMRC. She had started that 3 years before, straight out of Compton.
Oh, okay.
And she was one of our bitter
yes
adversaries. But
exactly.
I met the guy from 2SM in Hawaii.
Right.
And he was starting to get into it already. And but there was one station in America that played our kind of music. And it was a little 5,000 watt station at the top of Alvarado Street called K-Day.
Wow.
And on K-Day were Greg Mack and the Mac Attack, Julio G and the Mix Masters, and they were the only radio station that played the thing. And the signal was so bad. First of all, it was 1580 AM. The very end of the dial.
Yes,
AM. So, if you were going through the valley when you were listening to Straight Outta Compton, Kenny Rogers would come, you'd hear over the top of it. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right over the top of an N.W.A. song. So we would take songs up there, and Greg Mack would say, yeah, we can't play this, you got to do this, you got to... We'd go back to Eazy's mother's garage, and we would, revise it and bring it back, and they would put it on the air. And the next day we would get orders for 40 or 50,000.
There you go.
Now remember, no radio.
Wow.
The mall was becoming the social center of urban America.
No radio.
And people were having car phones for the first time.
Right.
And they heard their friends playing it on their car phones.
Wow.
And that's really how we got started. And it was incredible. I never could properly explain how we broke, those records the way we did. And with all the people that I've discovered in my life, and I obviously have discovered the biggest acts in the history of the world, the 7 or 8 years from 1987 to March 3rd of 1995 that I spent with Eazy-E were certainly the most important period of my life. And I've always felt that that actually N.W.A. and Public Enemy
definitely
took the place of where Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King would have gone if they wouldn't have been assassinated. They did more for race relations in this country than anybody except Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy.
And that's something that I want to touch on. With regards to the rap as it was back then and such political activism, how do you compare it against today's rap? And what do you think that they can learn from the rappers back in the late 70s and early 80s, sort of like the forefathers of hip-hop and rappers? It is now, there seems to be a lot of political activism lost in today's rap and hip-hop. Do you see that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're asking the wrong person, because to me, there's only 3 rap groups ever. Public Enemy politically, N.W.A. sociologically, and if there wasn't an N.W.A. above the law, probably would have been the most important of the West Coast groups.
Wow.
And anybody else, even though they make money and they're good, they're not rappers, they're into hip-hop. And they're really pop. Rap is not,
that's so true. That's so true.
Rap is not pop.
Exactly.
That's so true.
It's impossible for me to relate to guys that, first of all, they no longer tell stories. What they do, they're in a singles business. There's no "It Takes a Nation of Millions." There's no Straight Outta Compton. There's no Ethel for Zaggin. There's no 100 miles and running.
Yeah.
See, they don't tell stories anymore.
Right.
And even to go back, Carole King's Tapestry. I mean, there were records told stories.
Yes.
They
Yes.
no longer tell stories. They're just hit records.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say just hit records,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that Lil Wayne makes a lot of money, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure a lot of guys make a lot. Certainly, Eminem make a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious that Andre Romel Young makes a lot of money.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And probably outside of Eazy as a conceptualizer,
Mm-hmm.
certainly the most important factor
Dre.
of the entire rap era
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is Dr. Dre. I
Right.
mean, look at his body of work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't deny that.
World Class Wrecking Crew,
Mm-hmm.
Michelet, the DOC, who may have been the greatest pure rapper that ever
Wow.
lived.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Eminem,
Yes.
50 Cent,
Yes. Yes.
The Chronic,
Mm-hmm.
N.W.A,
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick Lamar.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this guy
go
is the
on.
most important single factor.
Right.
He and I aren't buddies, you know, but I
Right.
look at his career. I mean, his career stands up.
Right. But you had a lot to do with the formation back in
Right.
the day of giving him a platform. You know, what I see when I think of Jerry Heller, I think of someone who contributed to helping people's dreams come true. Eazy-E, Dre, Ice Cube, they all had a dream. And had you not got involved, I mean, I'm sure other things would have happened,
Right.
but you were that particular ingredient for
Other
NWA.
things wouldn't have happened.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
But
Jerry.
NWA wouldn't have happened.
right,
Yeah.
Easy.
It wouldn't have happened.
I already had all the,
Right,
I
right,
had all those guys
right,
signed.
right. But you
Before
were
I
the
met Eazy.
facilitator. You were the facilitator. What you did was so empowering for these guys. What you did was a wonderful act of generosity. That's what I
Well,
see.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Not to
Yeah,
mention
I look at
introducing the music.
Right.
in
I look
general.
I look at Jerry as like it's even though it's business, it's like these were your kids. You know, you don't always like your kids when they grow up. You don't always get along with them, but you built the foundation
Yes.
for them to be amazing. So at the
Yes.
bottom line, when you track the lineage all the way back, it still comes back to you. You know, and at the end of the day, it's like I sit here and I remember at Shaker Heights, because we have Shaker Heights in common. there was you know how right there where you go from Shaker to 154th and Kinsman, there was a record store on the corner, and I remember sneaking in there to go buy the NWA tape, and I go home and I'm in the basement putting the tape in, and my grandmother's in the church, so she comes and she's like, you can't be playing this. What do you mean, niggas with attitude? You know. So I had to sneak, and I would sneak, and I had a little little headset, and I would play it. And I'm so grateful, you know, because I'm into the music industry, I'm into entertainment, and so I'm so grateful to you for what you did, your contribution. We can look at the artist, but nobody seems to always look at who was the business person behind
Who took the
that?
chance?
Who took the risk? Who did the things to make it possible for this to be? Dr. Dre, y'all may not get along, but I guarantee you this, he'll never forget you, because he wouldn't be where he's at right now. No matter what. You can be artistic and paint all the pictures you want to paint, but if you don't have the right pieces of the puzzle put together and the right team put together, you can do nothing. I could paint a million pictures and no one would ever see them if I didn't have Jerry help. You see?
Yes.
So I'm just grateful. I had to say that because I'm just so excited and grateful and honored to meet you. We are so
so
oh my
excited.
gosh, your body of work, your children,
Yes,
body of work. That's your body of work. It's just like your DNA's all over it.
Eazy was like my flesh and blood son.
I know it. I know it.
We're that close, and I think probably down deep that that Cube and Dre are embarrassed that Eazy died without them having made peace with him.
Definitely.
Me, they don't care about. I was a white Jewish guy.
But they still remember you. They still talk. They still talk
a lot of
you.
times with guilt comes blame. You want to blame someone, and sometimes it's hard to have to actually recognize yourself and say, it's me. Sometimes you need to blame. Just like,
Right.
we've heard different things been said by different people, involved in the different productions that have come out. And they've said things like, well, someone has to be the bad guy. Or, and that's a guilt feeling. That's a feeling of, I have some internal guilt and I don't want to deal with it.
That's interesting.
I want to put it on somebody else.
Because Ice Cube just said something like that. There has to be a villain, and I made Jerry Heller the villain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow. And I really think it's important for our audience, and I hope this audience becomes huge. I think it's important for them to know what a facilitator of dreams you are, that you empower other people. What you did was you empowered Eazy-E, you empowered Dr. Dre, you empowered Ice Cube.
But you know what you have to think about? Forget about Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, okay? Eazy, I always wondered why he paid Alonzo that $750. Why me?
What?
There's other guys. Why me, man?
Maybe he knew.
He just
sometimes
knew.
He did know.
You do know.
And after that, a lot of people, when we started to become successful,
Right.
we were doing $10 million a month, then they came out of the woodwork.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Don
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Jesse Jackson, Dr.
Yeah.
Farrakhan,
Yeah.
they all said, hey, Eazy, man, you shouldn't be with that white guy. You know, you should be with your people. And he said, hey, man, that's my guy.
Right. Definitely.
Jerry's my guy.
Definitely. And while we're talking about empowering others, I also want the audience to know that you are actually teaching at a few institutions, which leads, you are lending yourself to empower so many, teaching them about hip hop. You teach classes of hip hop at UCLA?
I do.
And the other university
USC, which is my
Cal
alma
and Cal
mater.
Lutheran.
And now Cal Lutheran, where I'm,
Wow.
where I'm on the board of their new their new business school.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And I enjoy it.
Right.
And I get a big kick out of it.
Wow.
And I like it. But my class, and I did teach at Cal State, but they closed down their program. But at UCLA, I taught a course called the Hip Hop Nation from Kingston to Compton.
Wow. Very nice. Now, how packed are your classes?
Well, they're very
Absolutely.
but you know, because I teach in one of those big amphitheaters.
Right.
But the interesting thing is that most of the students were from the fashion world.
Oh, wow.
They saw the correlation. All these young girls
Definitely
saw the correlation between hip hop and fashion.
There's definitely
The trends come
huge.
from the hip hop
Huge.
industry.
Yeah.
So you continue to give. I see Jerry as a giver. Jerry Heller is a giver,
Yeah,
someone
but-
who facilitates dreams and is a giver. And I think people need to know that.
Look what N.W.A. did.
N.W.A. just,
I mean, look what they did.
wow, so many wonderful things.
First of all, the city of Compton wasn't on the map of the city of Los Angeles. They put their city on the map.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people could say that?
Yes.
The things that they did were incredible. And
That's right.
I mean, they're the ones that really should be proud of what they've done.
Definitely.
And I just think it's incredible.
So it sounds like you're very, even though there's a little bad blood, you're very proud of all the members of
There's
NWA.
no bad blood on my part.
Right.
You know,
Jerry's not
Right,
bad.
right, no,
Right.
Jerry
exactly.
doesn't have any animosity.
I've been through this before. Historically, in the music business,
It has.
that's the way the music business was started by the mob. And they stole money from
Right.
guys like Little Richard
Right.
and Bo Diddley
Right.
and all those guys, Howling Wolf and Muddy Waters, wound up destitute because the mob took all their money.
Yes.
When Eazy and I got started, Eazy said, hey man, I want to be like Berry Gordy.
Right.
We're not going to do that. And you know, a lot of people talk shit about Berry Gordy. But here's what I tell my class about Mr. Gordy. And I see him and I still call him Mr. Gordy.
Mr. Gordy. Mr. Gordy.
You know? So, Who's the biggest female group of all time?
Supremes?
Mhm.
Yes,
What
loved her.
What label were they on?
Motown.
Ah.
Yep.
Okay, who's the biggest, not the obvious one, but who's the biggest child star of all time on his own?
Child.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
No, that's obvious.
Stevie
Wonder.
Stevie
What
Wonder.
label was he on?
Motown.
I like Stevie Wonder. Motown.
Who was the biggest group of all time?
Oh.
Eagles.
Jackson 5.
Jackson
Jackson
5.
Five. Okay,
Yes,
there you go.
the group. Yeah.
What
Not
label-
heavy.
What label were they on?
Motown.
Motown. Yes.
Who was the biggest black male singer? Marvin Gaye. What label was he on?
Motown.
Wow, isn't that just a
Wow.
coincidence?
Look, and then you say Mr. Barry Gordy.
Mr.
Temptations.
Yes.
Oh,
Four
yes.
Tops.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, this guy.
Yes.
I mean, he's deserved the right for me to call him Mr. Gordy.
Definitely he is.
Yeah.
And he and I weren't friends because I represented Marvin.
Right.
And I told
wow.
Marvin
Wow.
in the beginning, I said, Marvin, this guy's going to come to you with a brown paper bag full of money and try and buy your publishing.
Right.
Wow.
Either you can be your own man or you can be his man.
Right.
And Marvin never took his money.
Wow.
And that's why he and Marvin were never good friends.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's why Mr. Gordy and I were never friends. I understand.
Business.
I represent
Right. Mm-hmm.
the little guy. I
Wow.
don't represent the big guy.
Wow.
But Mr. Gordy, for me, has to be one of the probably half dozen most important human beings in the history
Of music. Yeah.
of the business.
Definitely.
I mean, he's
Definitely
unbelievable.
Is. Definitely.
I mean,
is.
the big Marvin Gaye was a concert pianist.
Mm-hmm.
He was the drummer in Harvey and the Moon
Wow.
Blows. He wrote the biggest song in Motown's history up to that point, Dancing in the Streets.
Wow.
Yes.
Martha was a reception. When you walked into the front door of
She was a
Hillsville,
receptionist.
Martha was the receptionist. Right.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That is
Yeah.
like awesome.
So cool.
And Marvin
Wow.
wrote that. His brother-in-law was Harvey Fuqua from Harvey and the
Right,
Moon Glows.
Fuqua.
They were married to Barry's sisters, Anna and Gwen.
Wow.
And,
Mm.
you know, I love Jan Gay so much. We've been so close. I've known
Wow.
her since she was 16 when Marvin met her.
Wow.
We've been friends all these years. And I'll tell you who else I met then, who was 14 years old,
Who was that?
playing guitar for Stevie Wonder, was Ray Parker Jr.
Oh yeah, Ray
Yes.
Parker Jr.
Ray
Yes,
Jr., yeah.
yes. He
Yeah.
was actually at the recent LA Web Fest, which is the biggest web fest in the world. Ray Parker Jr. is actually a good friend of the guy who founded LA Web Fest, who's a really good friend of mine, Mike N.W.A. And Mike actually was the director of the unsung Ray Parker Jr. episode,
I saw that.
so which was wonderful.
Ray Parker Jr. wrote the biggest movie song in history.
Yes, he
And
did.
to this day,
Yes.
since 64 or whatever, he's made $1 million a year
Wow.
from Ghostbusters.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, right.
You're gonna call
Ghostbusters. I just always remember the Diva something strange. I have a question based on, and it's more like a story. I'm asking for a story. I actually had the privilege of being friends with ThugsNHarmony. I met them when they first came back from meeting with Eazy, and I remember they came back totally different. They weren't like the guys from Cleveland off of St. Clair anymore. And I remember they had that. I know that you and Eazy worked well together because you both saw things in people that other people may not have seen. And what I saw in them at that moment when they came back was probably what you and Eazy saw in them, was the hunger to do something different. With all of the other groups, like I have to go back to like Miss Chalet. How did those groups come about? Like what happened? You know, how did you guys start doing the branching off and things like that?
Well, Miss Chalet sang background on a song called "Turn Out the Lights,"
I remember that.
Okay.
which was a world-class wrecking crew
I
song.
remember that.
And that was Alonzo, and
Right.
you know Dre did an album with her.
Okay.
Bone ThugsNHarmony. Eazy was playing at the Agora in
Wow.
Cleveland, and one of the bodyguards called and said, there's these guys out, rapping around. And we took him in to see Eazy, and Eazy said to me, listen, we got to do these guys. They're doing something different here. And I sent him bus tickets because I didn't want him getting there before Eazy did.
Right, exactly.
And Bone Thugs-N-Harmony could have been the biggest act in the world.
I agree.
A couple of things happened. Because they are very difficult guys.
Yes, they
Oh,
are.
really?
Okay. Oh, yeah, they're
Yes,
very,
they are.
they're-
I know them personally.
They're very-
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did
Difficult.
music with them. They
Bone
were.
Thugs-N-Harmony,
Yeah.
difficult guys.
They're very difficult. Eazy died, man. And once Eazy died and I left, nobody could control him.
So it was like the
Wow.
parents, like it was literally like the parents or the foundational stuff
Nobody
was
could control
gone.
him because they had we had finished Crossroads in August of '94. They didn't put it out until summer of '95 after Eazy was
And see,
dead.
I managed the three girls that sang. They sang Hail Mary at the beginning. Becky, Nico, and Kim. And I remember when it started kind of going. You could see it going south. You could see them going south. Just the behavior and things like that. So.
Now they said that they thought that I killed Eazy-E.
No.
Wow.
They say it to this day.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it's ridiculous just from I'm a Libra. It's just from a lot of different.
You like balance.
And you know what? I know several people who know you, and I've heard about the love that you have for Eazy, that he was like your son. I know that.
Okay, but from a business point of view,
Exactly.
I'm the only person that didn't gain from his death.
Exactly.
I wound up with nothing.
Exactly.
I mean, and everybody else
Ate from him.
divided up the spoils. you know?
Wow.
Wow.
So, I mean, just from a logical point of view, that's so ridiculous.
Right. Why
Yeah.
would you do something
Well,
as absurd as that?
It's
Right.
so stupid.
Right.
And the only one that really stood up for me all the time was Busy. He was a good guy. And, like I said, they could have been the biggest group in the world because they
They
did.
didn't have. They were amazing.
Wow.
Well, they did something no one else did. They did those kind of
Melodic.
layered vocals that were nobody else did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And it's so sad because you realize, like, for us, like, even both of us being, having roots in Ohio, we didn't have a rap group. You didn't have a real rap group that really came from there. So it was like, that gave us that moment. It was like having LeBron James. Like, it was like, we have something, and then,
Sports analogy.
right,
There you go.
and then you lost out because they still had what we call, the mistake or the late mentality. They still had that mentality that didn't allow them to grow.
Right.
It didn't allow them to grow. And it was sad because, you would think in your mind, you're like, from a business standpoint, when once Eazy passed, I would have came straight to you.
see, the thing that you have to remember is that artists are surrounded by different kinds of people.
True.
Definitely.
You have artists like Lindsay Lohan, who are surrounded by very weak people that are just looking at it from a financial point of view.
Right.
You have people like Amy Winehouse, who I think was one of the greatest stars
She
that
was.
ever lived.
Definitely.
There's no reason for her to have
have
died
died.
at some young age. And then you have guys like Freddie DeMann and Albert Grossman and Jerry Heller and Irving Azoff, who all they care about is their artists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay? And they make sure that these artists do the right things. Now, I always felt about Eazy, I said, look, it's still his company and it's still his money, but for every foolish thing that he does, I'm going to make sure that he does a lot of smart things.
Right. Right.
Balance.
So you have to have balance.
Right.
And most of the people aren't like that. They don't.
No.
They don't care about that. And so to think that that I would be involved anyway. I mean, everybody knows what happened to
Right.
Yes.
We don't even
Yes.
need to, from a
every-
medical standpoint,
everyone
that's
knows.
impossible.
Yeah.
that you-
Everybody knows
Yeah.
who did it.
Yeah.
And
And there was, you know,
We
it
know.
was natural
Yeah, it was.
well, everybody knows.
Yeah.
causes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Medical reasons.
And, you know, obviously, just like with Tupac and with Biggie,
Mm-hmm.
the police didn't care.
Yeah.
No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was just black people killing black people, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that is something that I do want to touch on with regards to the emotion in the country right now with regards to Black Lives Matter. Do you see any solutions that the society can possibly look to solving the Black Lives Matter, this police brutality? What does society do? What do we need to do to address this?
see, you guys are all young. I remember when things were a lot worse.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Okay? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 74 years old now.
Oh, but you
Yes,
look
looks
25.
amazing.
And I still like young girls.
There you go, Jerry.
And he's
So,
honest.
things are a lot different now.
Right.
You know, when I moved to Shaker Heights,
Mm-hmm.
it was owned by a family called the Van Swergen family.
Yes.
Jewish people weren't allowed to live there.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go to court until their 99-year lease
Passed.
expired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I'll tell you something about Shaker Heights, which is very dear to my heart.
Mm.
Because all my life, I've come across guys at these record companies who graduated first in their class at Harvard and Yale
Right.
and Duke. And, you know, I didn't go to those kind of
Exactly.
schools.
Mm-hmm.
So my education came from Shaker Heights High School. And when I went there, they had 8 people in a class.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? I really
It was small.
learned things.
Mm.
Okay? And when I went back, when I was inducted into the Shaker Hall of Fame in 2003,
Mm-hmm.
along with the guy that invented molecular surgery, eye surgery, and
Wow.
the Supreme Court justice. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when I went back there, the only African American, his father was the janitor.
Wow.
Okay? When I went back there, it was 50-50.
Wow.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I graduated from Shaker High School, there were like 3 or 4 National Merit Scholars, which is a big...
Mm-hmm.
When I went back there in 2003, there were 129 National Merit Scholars.
That's the number
The
one school
top-
in the nation.
The top 10 students in Latin
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
all went to Shaker Heights High School.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Okay,
that's
and it was
right.
50-50.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton and I talk about this all the
Wow.
time. That the public school system can work.
It definitely can.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I
But
have
it
my
can work.
Yeah.
I have my daughter in public school, and it's a big school, and she's doing phenomenally well. It's a huge school. Granted, she is in accelerated classes, so and she's involved in things. I think the trick to children is having them involved in activities. When you don't have them involved in activities, there's no focus. But if they have a focus, then
I just think Shaker Heights is the
Shaker
perfect
Heights is
example.
amazing.
It's
an amazing
It stayed
school.
one
Really?
of the top 10 schools
Wow.
for years.
For
And
the
it
last
was-
60
For the last
years.
60 years. And I have 2 children that I raised that were my sisters. They graduated from there. And I remember saying, you know, these are the things that all public schools should follow this. I remember going there myself and being like, I have to go swimming. we're playing golf. I was like, and we're swimming every day. What do you mean? And I mean, and those things were amazing to me. My mother and my aunts, my grandmother and my grandfather were the first black family that lived in their neighborhood in Shaker Heights. So they bused my mom and my aunts to different side of town at the time because it was still that time. It was in the 60s.
Wow.
So they were light skinned with green eyes, so they matched a little bit. So they could go to this area, and we didn't want too many, you know. But the thing was, the schooling in general was amazing. We had friends that came from South Africa and that went to school, and people who seeked out Shaker Heights because of the quality of the education.
It's an incredible public school.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I really give them so much credit for my development.
Wow.